Okay, everybody, welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to be watching a video from Clyde. Now, I was requested to watch these videos, and we're going to be watching them right now. Well, not right now. Right now, when this video does eventually, goes out on my channel. Now, these videos are. We actually have a series of videos, and each of them focusing on the power of the main character Ichigo Kurosaki. Now, he has, if I remember correctly, there are a few videos that he has on Ichigo. One is the Soul Society, which is what we're gonna be watching now, and then there's, I think if I remember correctly, there's Vasto Lord Ichigo, and then there's Mugetsu Ichigo, and then there's Fullbring Ichigo. Now we're gonna be watching these in the order of the actual story. So we're gonna start with Soul Society Ichigo, then we'll watch Vasto Lord Ichigo, then Mugetsu Ichigo, and then Fullbring Ichigo. So, and also just to remind you, each of these videos are pretty long, so these videos in and of themselves are going to be kind of long, so just to let you guys know right then and there. And also, before we watch the video, as always guys, if you have your own videos that you guys would want me to watch, just let me know about them in the comments, and let me know about them by writing the title of the video and the YouTube channel that posted them, so I know where to find them. And I say that because in the past, when someone tried to leave a link to a video in my comments, for some reason the comment always gets removed. I don't know why. So just to avoid that, just let me know the title of the video and the YouTube channel that posted it, so I know where to find it if you guys really want me to watch it. So let's go ahead and watch these videos in 3, 2, 1.
If you're a fan of Bleach, please hit that subscribe button. Let's support Bleach as a team until the anime returns in
I'm just gonna like it for
2021.
now.
Because if you support me, I'll keep supporting Bleach by making plenty of content in the future. Every series has that moment where the stakes are at their peak, the odds are stacked against your favorite characters, the threat has become too great to deal with, and the likeliness of survival is slim to none. A moment where that one sole individual is needed but hasn't arrived yet. A moment of impatience, a moment of desperation, a moment of legends. We all know the scenes and we all love them. Today I will be focusing on one of the most iconic moments in anime, the arrival of Soul Society Ichigo, and how this version of Ichigo made us feel like he was Superman by saving the day and surpassing every single thing that was thrown at him. If you've ever wondered how strong this variation of Ichigo is, well, I've got you covered today with this video. And if you want more videos like these, please hit the like button, because if we get 10,000 likes on this video, I'll upload a video on Mugetsu Ichigo and explain just how strong that form of Ichigo is.
And also, if you guys want to help out my video, let's see if we can get this to at least 100 likes. That's it. That's all I'm asking for. 100 likes.
Ichigo, other than his sensory abilities, which I've mentioned in previous Ichigo-oriented videos, is absolutely his hand-to-hand combat ability. A lot of people have this weird perception that Bleach characters are not adept at hand-to-hand combat because they are predominantly showcased using swords as their primary way of offense and defense. From my own analysis of Bleach, their physical strength and hand-to-hand combat can sometimes be the most electrifying part of the battles. Grimmjow versus Ichigo comes to mind, Yamamoto versus Wonder Weiss, any battle involving Yoruichi or Soifon, and even some of Renji's battles. Although there are countless other battles where hand-to-hand combat is the most common aspect of the battle itself in Bleach, it's still a very underappreciated part of the series, which otherwise is so heavily synonymous with sword use. Hakuda, also known as white hits or hand-to-hand combat in the Viz translation, is the name of the martial arts style shown throughout Bleach, which is used predominantly by Shinigami. This style of hand-to-hand combat is so in-depth that Tite Kubo even gave Shunsui's two-finger stab, Ishin's flicking technique he used against Aizen, Soifon's kicks, and Yamamoto's punches their own unique names. Where most other series would just call these punches, flicks, pokes, and kicks, Tite Kubo gave them quite a lot of thought, which is noted in the official data books which he was actually involved in, where in these data books they list specific names for almost every blow thrown in the series. The reason I bring this up is because Ichigo, who only knew the basics of karate, as noted where he claims he could only beat Tatsuki up until junior high, and apart from that only has a lot of street fight experience, well, Ichigo implemented this style, which isn't even Hakuda, into his battles as a Soul Reaper, being able to outbox and judo toss Ganju, then completely blitz 3 lieutenants, one being Unohana's main subordinate Isane, Omaida, one of the main members of the Stealth Force, the squad that specifies in hand-to-hand combat, stealth, health kills and is even praised by Aizen. You know, Omaida, the guy who is the right-hand man of the female captain who prioritizes hand-to-hand combat over using her sword, he also takes out Yamamoto's right-hand man, Chojiro, all in the span of one blitz. Then he is able to pick up his Zanpakuto and react to Byakuya, who is attacking him completely off guard. Ichigo was also able to deduce Ikaku's entire fighting style, Renji style, and adapt to Urahara in their training, even breaking through his blood shield. He also achieved Bankai in roughly 2.5 days, which means that he actually learned Bankai quicker than Urahara did. He also impressed Yoruichi when she viewed him adapting to Zangetsu, bullying him in training, and according to Byakuya, he mastered Shunpo. Although I personally wish Ichigo used his hand-to-hand combat more throughout the series, it's still a cool way to open up this video. Kenpachi says his sword technique is barely assistant captain level, though he closes that gap and surpasses captain level in the span of days, along with increasing his spiritual pressure. Without even using Hakuda or being super experienced at sword fighting, his fight IQ was better than Shinigami, who were hundreds to thousands of years old, by only using human level karate mixed with his street fight knowledge and bare minimal sword training. His fight IQ is definitely a very underrated quality of Ichigo, and something we see time and time again later in the series. So very similar to when Ichigo was able to absorb the Menos Grande Zero and fire it back into it, sending it back to Hueco Mundo, this was without a doubt him passively using Quincy abilities, and this is why Uryu was so confused about what was going on with Ichigo, something of which I actually explained in my Shinigami Ichigo video. Well, in his battle against Kenpachi in the Soul Society, it is later clarified that Ichigo in fact used Blute Vein, or more so, Zangetsu used it to save Ichigo from bleeding to death against Kenpachi. This is actually clarified in the War Arc when Ichigo is training to get his real Zanpakuto.
See, this is nice because it shows you that Kubo thought of this for a long time. So a lot of people out there who don't give Kubo enough credit for his writing, just keep in mind, this was all the way back near the beginning of the story. And he planned Ichigo being a Quincy all the way back then. So just keep that in mind. I feel like people don't give Kubo enough credit for his writing.
Powers and is reflecting on the relationship between he and the spirits inside of him. Yeah, there were no lies. Not in his words, not in yours either. He used a Quincy shadow to help me. You used a Quincy's blood to stop mine. You lent me the power of a Quincy to help me be stronger. Though Zangetsu is admittedly holding Ichigo back from using his true power that we later see in the War Arc, he and White help out Ichigo in various situations throughout this arc, which makes the scaling incredibly confusing for the average reader when viewing Bleach for the first time. For example, Ichigo's power after he fights Kenpachi, although heavily wounded, is so amplified after this battle, and before even doing any of the Bankai training, I want to really emphasize that, before any of the Bankai training, that Ukitake genuinely believes and is in shock that this form of Ichigo is, and I quote, "Whoa, that spiritual pressure, it could only belong to a captain, but I don't recognize it. Whose is it? Where's it coming from?" You also need to keep in mind that, in the words of Yoruichi, half of Ichigo's organs were crushed in the battle against Kenpachi, yet he was still able to keep up with Byakuya's speed and impress Ukitake. Just from him moving and getting out of bed, it opened up the wounds and was making him bleed. What's even more crazy about this statement and Ichigo's confrontation on the bridge is that in his battle with Kenpachi, Kenpachi believed that he was originally assistant captain level, and although Zangetsu buffed him to captain level and it's later stated this is why he survived his wounds, just from that battle alone, he gained such an increase in power, because we know he isn't being buffed by Zangetsu at that exact moment, that he had actually attained captain level power from Zenkai boost. As once again, for those of you who don't know, after every battle that a Soul Reaper goes through, or basically any kind of character in Bleach, they increase their power just like characters in Dragon Ball. Once again, I want to really put emphasis on this. Ichigo is considered captain level before the Bankai training has even started, and is incredibly injured at this time, but yet he can still keep up with Byakuya on the bridge, perceive his movements, and parry his attacks multiple times. Ganju is also quoted saying, "That's not what I mean. That guy's spiritual pressure is at least as great as Zaraki's." And this is before he even flexes his spiritual pressure or fights even in a serious manner. To once again go back to Ichigo's sensory abilities, Ichigo is so mentally sharp that he can sense Chad almost die across the other side of the Soul Society while Kenpachi's spiritual pressure is covering the entire battlefield, and Chad is so far away that it can actually take multiple days to get from one point to the other in this part of the Soul Society. Before all of this stuff happens though, when Ichigo is training for the Flower Crane Cannon to enter the Soul Society, he creates so much spiritual pressure that it actually scares everybody, including Kukaku Shiba, who was able to one-shot one of the gatekeepers with Hado 63 Raikaho. In this arc of Bleach, this is the most common time you will see Tite Kubo place a lot of focus on Ichigo's speed, and this leads to being his main quirk throughout the rest of the series. Yoruichi emphasizes that she is going to get Ichigo to the level where he can be worthy enough to fight Byakuya, and in her own words, to be more specific, actually surpass him. And once again, he not only impresses Yoruichi when she is viewing him train, but according to Byakuya, Ichigo has mastered Shunpo. Calculating Ichigo's speed in this arc is incredibly simple. Ichigo was previously relativistic to light speed against the Menos Grande, which the databooks claim uses light-based Ceros. Urahara also believes Ichigo needs to fight the Menos Grande to prove himself, showing that this isn't a miracle and he believes he can fight something of this level. And the fact that he tussled with the Menos Grande, and even Byakuya is impressed by his ability to deal with the Menos Grande, along with Renji being in complete denial that he did, showing further evidence that Menos Grande are a big deal at this point in the series. Also, to add further evidence to Urahara's claim, he also later states that Ichigo has more potential than his own. Well, to get to the actual number, you could say that Ichigo has become 5 times stronger than where he was against the Menos Grande, as Renji states he is now 5 times stronger in their battle in the Soul Society compared to the world of the living, and Ichigo achieving Shikai has amped him to this level. Well, after fighting Renji and Kenpachi, where Kenpachi thinks in their battle he has become assistant captain level, Ichigo then progresses to the level of a captain on the bridge, then high captain level when he fights Byakuya. You could also say that he was captain level in the Kenpachi fight after he got the amp from Zongetsu, but we're talking about Ichigo without the help of Zongetsu here, just to clarify. Now, I'm not going to do any crazy stuff where I wank Ichigo to 1,000 times light speed in this part of the series, or put a weird number on it where it's just so ridiculous that when you do stuff like this, it transcends author intent and becomes way too headcanon-y. If I do the math one way, but another person does it their way, although we might come to a number where technically we're both correct in our evaluation of the actual equation, it can become what I would imagine laughable to the author. Like, imagine you approach the author and you have a conversation with him and you say, "So, Mr. Tite Kubo, is it true that Ichigo is 53,456 times the speed of light in the Soul Society at this exact moment in the story? Like right here when he's talking to Byakuya? I'm just really curious. Could you answer that?" He'd probably say, "What? I mean, he dodges light. Like, that's probably the most impressive thing he did. Like, how did you come to that number?" You see, it would be pretty weird to have that conversation with the author, right? So let's be charitable with this and not go overboard with the answer, okay? Ichigo in Shikai, when he faces off against Byakuya, has become high captain level without a doubt. He's stronger than he was on the bridge where he shocks Ukitake and Byakuya, and Yoruichi thinks she can actually make him stronger than Byakuya in mere days, showing this isn't a flimsy statement by Ukitake, as Byakuya also states he's surprised Ichigo can stand his spiritual pressure and can tag him multiple times while severely injured. Well, once again, the Ichigo in Shikai who faces off against Byakuya can not only keep up with Byakuya's Shikai and repel it multiple times, but he avoids the Zanpakuto a few times while it's in Bankai, and then he himself goes Bankai. He wasn't fully rested when he actually came to battle Byakuya, and he did take a blow from the Bankai when he should never have taken damage to begin with, and this was due to his cockiness. When he goes Bankai, although it's incredibly powerful, it could have actually been stronger if he was rested and didn't take a blow which almost murdered Renji in one shot. You know, the same guy who was in Bankai. Now, what's crazy about this is that his Bankai amplifies his speed so much that Byakuya can't even register his existence in his brain. And although Ichigo slows down as the fight progresses and White claims Ichigo is being crushed by his own Bankai's spiritual pressure, it doesn't change the fact that when Ichigo first goes into the form, he is massively
it basically
faster
spoke
than
to his
Byakuya,
inexperience
who is
in
famous for
Bankai.
his flash step prowess, is injured and took a blow which he should have never taken. Well, if we lowball Ichigo's Bankai multiplier, because only mastered Bankai get a 10 times increase in their attributes, and Ichigo obviously hasn't mastered it at this point in the story because there are side effects from the Bankai. It's also stated that it takes 10 years to master a Bankai, and he can barely use his Bankai for long periods of time before it starts to lose its efficiency in battle. This is also something that Byakuya really hammered into Renji, that you should not use Bankai until you've mastered it, because it's actually going to be too much of a detriment to you in battle. Ichigo in the battle against Byakuya has become 5 to 10 times stronger than multiple forms of Ichigo who were above the form that was already relativistic to the speed of light. And if we lowball Ichigo to the most honest answer, he is anywhere between 3 to 10 times the speed of light in Shikai, another 5 times in Bankai, rather than 10 because of what I just said about him not mastering Bankai, and then another 10 times when White takes over. Because although Ichigo hasn't mastered holification at this point in the story, and it is stated that he does master it after his third battle with Grimmjow, White is the one using it, meaning nothing is holding him back, which would increase his speed and strength by a solid 10 times. As Tosin claims, he is more confident using holification than his own Bankai, and he thinks holification is a greater power than Bankai. Tosin's word here is very important because Tosin absolutely has mastered his sword, and he is over 100 years old, yet he prefers holification. You could say, well, he's only saying this because he's becoming infatuated by the power and the whole vision related thing, but the problem with that is that he only becomes infatuated and acts out of character once he goes into the Resurrection, because then he can finally see. So using that argument isn't relevant to what he said about holification. It's a legitimate statement. Without even a doubt in my mind, this Ichigo is anywhere from one singular time the speed of light to potentially tens to hundreds of times light speed, with White using holification. This also isn't a huge thing to say, as White absolutely blitzed and changed the time of the battle between both he and Byakuya. Byakuya had no chance at all, and this was shown with a huge gap in power. So once again, Ichigo is consistently around 1 to 100 times the speed of light, just to be safe. The most I would say to be narratively consistent, however, is around 3 to 5 times solidly the speed of light at this point in the series. Once again, I don't want to go overboard with the calculations and the numbers because it becomes incredibly headcanon oriented. Also, he does kind of, blitz multiple lieutenants who directly scale to lieutenants who dodge the Negation at point blank range, a light which is hyped up by the head captain himself, and this light scales to Vasto Lord A tier hollows. So for those of you out there who are downplaying the speed of characters in Bleach, or maybe you just don't understand how to scale the series correctly, which is fine, I hope this makes it super clear for this period of the story. And also, if you want to bring up the godly lightning stuff or the Gin statements, that's some really outdated power scaling, and I debunked all of it in my Bleach speed video, a video that I believe most Bleach scalers should watch, so if you get the time, go peep that video. The thing that's quite wild about this form of Ichigo is the progression of strength he achieves in such small intervals of time. He enters the Soul Society at around lieutenant level after attaining Shikai, meaning he has become 5 times stronger than when he fought against the Menos Grande for the first time, or Renji. He swaps swords multiple times with high-seated officers, goes against multiple different captains, being able to survive an attack from one who low-key is most likely holding back, but also testing him at the same time, goes on to defeat Kenpachi with the help of Zangetsu, and although it's established that Kenpachi is holding back, that level of power is worthy of captain class. And after his deathmatch with Ichigo, Kenpachi has been amped to the level of being able to fight Tosin and Komamura at the same time, while basically messing around. You could consistently argue that Ichigo would be strong enough to fight Tosin and Komamura at the same time, because yes, Kenpachi did get an amp, but so did Ichigo with his training. I want to give some credit to Tosin and Komamura, however, and that's the fact that this is a Tosin before he got power-ups by Aizen, and this is also a Komamura who didn't prep for the Aizen War. Some might bring up, oh, Tosin was holding back, obviously this battle, it's not what it actually looks like, right? But why would Tosin hold back against Kenpachi and risk dying? It doesn't further his goal with Aizen in any way, shape, or form, showing that he actually does get an increase in power later on, and wasn't always that powerful. And it is funny because Kenpachi genuinely believes that he can take on Hisage and Tetsuzaemon along with the 2 aforementioned captains at the same time. So as for Ichigo scaling to that battle, it's pretty impressive. A small side note, by the way, it's actually emphasized that the Hollow Mask from White is so strong that it can tank blows from captain level fighters, and it saves him more than once in the arc. Anywho, the feat that is so impressive from this Ichigo is absolutely when he shocks all of the captains after being able to block the Sokyoku, a legendary blade with the power of 1 million Zanpakuto, and is said to have the power to be able to destroy the entire Seirete and the Soul Society, which is actually an understatement because in movie 1 of Bleach, which is canon, it only takes 160 Soul Reapers to generate enough power to be able to destroy the Valley of Screams, meaning although the statement isn't actually incorrect, the blade can in fact do much more than what's stated, and this is highlighted in the data books where it states its spiritual pressure can overwhelm everything in existence. When Rukia is about to be executed by the Sokyoku, Ichigo blocks the Sokyoku, which is in its attack phase. When the Sokyoku is attacking, its power is amplified by several dozen times, making it 36 times more powerful, meaning Ichigo blocked the power of 36 million Zanpakuto and was about to do it again. To the shock of the captains, he performed a feat they couldn't believe was happening before their very eyes. Now, there are 3 reasons which I could come up with as to why Ichigo was able to block the Sokyoku, because to be honest, it is quite confusing that he can block something this powerful at this point in the story. You could say it was specifically set to be able to destroy something of Rukia's level, and she was incredibly weakened at the time because of being in the jail, which further adds that it should be really easy for Ichigo to block if it's at that level, because not only does she not have Soul Reaper powers, but she's also weakened on top of that. And it's actually pretty wild because when she's viewing Byakuya and Ichigo on the bridge having their battle, she has to concentrate the entire time just to be conscious and then passes out after the battle is done. So I do doubt that the Sokyoku was set to Rukia's level, because Aizen emphasized to Renji that the Sokyoku is used specifically for people of a high threat, captain level and above. One might say Aizen is lying here once again, just like parts of his note, but how does this lie further his facade in any way? If he says the sky is blue while he's telling a lie, is he incorrect? It's very consistent with the reaction on the faces of the captains when Ichigo blocks it. You also need to ask yourself, why was the blade originally used in the Soul Society? Well, it was obviously made this powerful and with the intent to slay individuals like the old rogue killers from the Rukon district, like say Unohana before she joined the Gote 13, because she was very notorious and there were plenty of people like her that were notorious and strong. You could also say rogue captains in the past, because it stated that Yamamoto was the only reason that the Gote 13 were kept together, because he sort of put them in line, showing that they weren't necessarily good people or easy to deal with. You could also say Quincy's from the original 1,000-Year Blood War, and even the likes of villains such as Yuha Bark, or even notorious hollows that Yamamoto may have encountered hundreds to thousands of years ago. The second reason is that Zangetsu and White amped Ichigo at the exact moment to be strong enough to block the blade. Now, some people have this weird headcanon that Ichigo became weaker after the Soul Society arc concluded, which just blatantly isn't true. The reason I say this is because characters like Grimmjow were already established to be above captain level, and Ichigo, while going all out in Bonkai, was nothing but average speed to Grimmjow. He says this verbatim. Yes, it's true Ichigo was scared of White, and this is why he didn't use Getsugas until the end of the battle, but when Ichigo can use holification after training with the Vizards, Grimmjow is still in the same position of power as he was before. The only times we see Ichigo get exponentially stronger is during the Orihime amps when she's screaming out, which was clearly a power-up from White, and even with that happening, Grimmjow can still keep up with that level of power because he takes direct blows from these amps where there's a huge spike in power, but they can still fight basically to the death, and he's strong enough to take blows from Noyatora while off guard, further showing that regardless of what you say, Grimmjow is still above the Byakuya shown in the Soul Society arc, and therefore showing he isn't weaker. The third thing we
are there people who actually thought that Ichigo was weaker after the Soul Society? I mean, that's just
actually isn't
stupid.
That mind-blowing of a feat. I mean, sure, in terms of numbers, it sounds very intimidating, doesn't it? You know, 36 million Zanpakuto, a blade used specifically for killing legitimate threats, and Ichigo blocks it all by himself, casually in Shikai. Well, what if I told you that this is the kind of stuff high-caliber fighters like Ichigo, Yamamoto, Genpachi, Unohana, Aizen, and so on can actually do. Let me just explain this. Characters like Rongiku have to wear seals in their body called Gentei Kaijo. Now, this actually limits them to being 5 times weaker than they normally would be to stop themselves from affecting the world of the living. In fact, an Ichigo who is suppressed by Zongetsu and his Shinigami badge is so strong that in Shikai, his spiritual pressure can reach across the entire planet according to Shinji. Now, if we just say for a moment that Zongetsu and White amped Ichigo to being one of the top tier characters in the series for a split second, considering they did admit to helping him throughout the Soul Society arc, and Ichigo was about to block the most powerful weapon in the Soul Society and then have multiple captains after him, including the head captain, it's kind of like if they don't help him, Ichigo's kind of fucked. Now anyway, during the war arc of Bleach, Yamamoto, while incredibly weaker than he should be due to having only one arm, according to Yuha Bark, who is very disappointed that he didn't get his arm healed, and while suppressing his own power that even worries Unohana, Yamamoto claims he has the power to destroy the entire Soul Society himself and Yuha Bark without the intent to do so, and he wants to finish the battle as soon as possible because of this. Now I realize he is fighting the fake Yuha Bark, just to clarify, right? This is a level of power that is emphasized by the author when it comes to the Sokyoku. Yet characters of Yamamoto's power when he's fighting the fake Yuha Bark can casually do that while suppressing themselves. I'm not trying to scale Yamamoto or Ichigo back and forth between the arcs. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that's how casual these sort of feats become in the war arc later on. We've even seen Vasto Lord Ichigo being able to do stuff like this in the Hellverse movie, and characters like Ukiura and Aizen could easily fire explosions big enough to do the same thing, especially with the Rongiku Gentei Kaijo scaling. The confusing part about all of this, however, is the overwhelming everything in existence statement in the data books, because that's essentially getting into some universal type wording. Now, to be completely fair and narratively consistent,
I believe this means that it has the power to affect everything in existence in a soul crush type manner.
Otherwise, if we do say characters in the Soul Society arc are universal, why would destroying the Soul Society be a shock to some of the captains? You might follow up with, well, no one wants their home destroyed, right? Well then, why was Yuha Bark's power so intimidating? Or why was the Soul King being able to hold the universe together so crazy? If there are about 50 plus characters in the series of Bleach who are at the level where they can affect the entire universe with their power, then it kinda contradicts Yuha Bark and the Soul King being so intimidating. Also, it's kind of funny that Aizen became so strong that even the weapon which overwhelms everything in existence was viewed as useless when it comes to slaying him due to his immortality, or maybe they actually did attempt to do it off screen and it just didn't work, because normally someone like Aizen, who's done all the crap that he has done, right, they'd just be executed and gotten rid of, right? I mean, they were going to do it to Rukia for far less, but, you know, to think that they wouldn't at least try it on Aizen just seems a bit weird. Maybe they really wanted to punish him by throwing him in jail for 20,000 plus years. I could kind of see, you know, that being more of a fitting punishment for Aizen. If one thing can be established from all of this, captains are very easily planet level and beyond. It's as simple as this. Can Rongiku block the Sokyoku? Really doubt it. I don't think she can at all. But she can affect the entire planet with her spiritual pressure, along with a fairly fodder Shikai Ichigo who can do the same thing, but he could also block the Sokyoku, right? In fact, this Ichigo didn't just block the Sokyoku, he actually put his sword into the podium, and he destroyed it so that Rukia would be let go from it. The podium which should be strong enough to take attacks from the Sokyoku. You see what I'm saying? If we can gather one thing from all of this, it is that every character in terms of scaling from the Soul Society arc who scale around Ichigo or above Ichigo can casually perform planetary feats, or at least bare minimum affect the entire planet in a harmful way. All it takes is a captain who is already multiple times stronger than Rongiku to go Bankai, and they are now 10 times more potent than before. Very simple stuff to understand for all the down players out there, especially with the movie 1 scaling, which was approved by Taite Kubo, where only 160 fodder Soul Reapers can generate enough power to destroy the Valley of Screams. Although this variation of Aizen, which you can see on the screen right now, becomes arguably stronger by 3 times, as he states his Kurohitsugi should be much stronger, he is still far above most captains, as Ichigo thinks 2 captains may not be enough to stop him, which later on ends up being true with Gin's statement about how Aizen stacks up against all of the Espada, and this is why they follow him. In fact, he's actually much stronger than Ichigo's analysis, because the statement about the Espada was made made about the form of Aizen which appeared in the Soul Society arc. Now, hear me out, okay? Game specifically says they came and followed Aizen in the past, which would infer the Soul Society arc, because he didn't just find the Espada the day after he left the Soul Society.
No.
He had all of this prepped for a very long time.
Yeah.
That Aizen right there was stronger than all of the Espada. Just to clarify, when he is viewing Aizen, he's talking about the one that's in front of him, but when you think about the time frame of the statement, it is inferring, once again, the Aizen from the Soul Society arc. Tite Kubo at this time, while writing Bleach, is obviously hyping up the strength of captains, and this is interesting because although Ichigo is basically walking on death's door after his close battle with Byakuya, Aizen is still shocked that when he stops Ichigo's blade with one finger, his follow-up slash didn't actually cut him in half as he expected. To further show evidence of Aizen holding back here, he was able to bring Grimmjow to his knees from merely soul-crushing him, and this Grimmjow made Rukia want to run away. In fact, she couldn't even comprehend his speed, and she says verbatim to Ichigo to retreat. Now, obviously Aizen is not fighting seriously at all here on Sokoku Hill. It's still quite wild to see that Ichigo does survive that blow, which Aizen thought would kill him, and further adds validity to Ukitake's statement earlier about how strong Ichigo actually is, and the potential that Aizen was so fascinated in alongside Urahara. Ichigo, on Sokoku Hill, if he was in Bankai and fully healed, is absolutely high-class captain level. And if White was to take over and his mask comes on mid-battle, he can become 10 times stronger than this due to White having no limitations on his own power, which the data books also emphasize. His speed is casually multiple times faster than Light, and he should be able to destroy the planet with absolutely no problems if he really wanted to. So, that's basically it, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all learned something. I'm really sorry for making this video take longer to come out than it needed to be, but there was more research than I anticipated, so that was my own fault. Next time I say a video is coming out, I'll make sure that it's almost done before I say that. Just a quick apology. And real quick, after this video goes live, I'm going to be talking about Bleach on my Twitch stream, so come by and leave a comment if you want. If you've ever wanted to ask me anything Bleach related, I am live right now on Twitch in the description below. So now's your chance to do that. I will answer every question, and it'd be awesome to just hang out with you guys on Twitch and, you know, just have a good time. So come stop by. Also, before I talk about Arrancar arc Ichigo, who we see from the start of the Arrancar arc until when he transforms into Dangai Ichigo, this is next.
Okay, well, there we go. There's your hint for the upcoming video, and yeah, like you said, Soul Society Ichigo was, again, I know he's not much compared to his later iterations, but I feel like, again, a lot of people don't give that version of Ichigo enough credit, even though there are multiple statements made by other characters just that should give you an idea as to just how powerful he is. For example, like he said, Ukitake is saying that this spirit energy is, you know, like captain level and above, and it's insane. Add on to that, of course, the Hollow Mask, which makes him, if I remember correctly, he said 10 times stronger. Yeah, it's insane. Like, Soul Society Ichigo was no joke. And the fact that there were some people who actually thought that he was weaker after the Soul Society arc was over, I honestly don't understand why anyone even thought that. But anyway, guys, that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Remember to leave a like, share the video, and please subscribe if you haven't. And if you have subscribed, remember to also click on the bell icon, because that will notify you whenever I post a brand new video. Thank you so much for, again, joining me for this video, and I hope you remember to stay safe and take care of yourselves, and please join me for the next video. Bye for now.